What's happening, guys? This is James Blond with MMOHut.com, and following up with last week's list of 10 great low-spec MMORPGs, several people asked for a list of just the opposite. Well, sort of. I put together a list of variety of 10 free-to-play MMOs that can really make use of some of the nice hardware out there on the market today.
Now this system includes everything you need to get started. Printer, monitor, and software. It's only $14.99 plus shipping and tax.
Now the games on this list are games that are pretty demanding for most older computers, and a lot of these games, if not all of them, will support AMD iFinity or NVIDIA Surround almost natively and look good doing so. Some of these take advantage of NVIDIA PhysX and have native support for 3D. So starting out the list, we've got several MMORPGs that can be fairly demanding as well as look really nice on a higher end rig. Starting out with DC Universe Online. Now like I mentioned in my low spec video, a lot of these MMORPGs are optimized so that nearly anyone can play them on whatever it is that they've got set up, but if you expect to get the max frame rate in a crowded city full of completely unique superheroes in DC Universe Online, you better have a pretty decent graphics card and CPU to support it. Sometimes MMORPGs can strain a computer due to optimization refining, but that's definitely not the case for this game. Next up we have Rift. This fits the list and is another game that recently went free to play, but it can play nicely on a wide range of settings. On low settings it looks like a typical old school MMORPG, but on ultra settings the game looks great. But in order to get 30 plus frames on ultra settings during a 20-man raid, I'd say you'd need at least a GTX 570 Ti or better. So the textures, shadows, and shading can really be brought out with some of the higher cards in this game, but there's a pretty big gap between it and our next game. Tera Rising. Of course, Tera looks just as good if not better than Guild Wars 2, and both need a good card to look that way. One of the reasons Tera is a 30GB download is the high quality textures, shader information, and of course lots of content. The game does seem to feel right at home on 3 to 5 monitors. See for yourself. So MMORPGs can be pretty demanding, but the most demanding free-to-play MMOs are the high-end action shooters like Planetside II. Planetside II is demanding in similar ways to the MMORPGs in that it can get really bogged down in high player concentrated areas on high settings for mediocre computers. Now Planetside II is always being worked on to be more optimized, but I've heard people with some pretty beastly machines having crazy frame drops. But nonetheless, if you're able to do it on ultra settings with NVIDIA PhysX, Planetside II can look absolutely amazing for such a massive MMO FPS. Now this next one is a personal favorite of mine. Blacklight Retribution has to be the king at shading and lighting effects when it comes to free-to-play FPS games. The recommended requirements for the game suggest a quad-core processor and at least a gig of RAM dedicated to the video card. All I know is back when I still had my computer that was running an AMD quad-core and a gig dedicated 5970, I had to drop the game down to medium to even get 30 frames per second. And as we've discussed in the past, Warframe can sport some pretty nice hardware. I really like how nice the game handles the particle effects and how smooth the game runs on the new NVIDIA cards with the turbulence physics. The particle effects just make the game that much more awesome, especially the fire effects and embers. Another free-to-play game that NVIDIA likes to show off is Hawken. Now that game has all kinds of crazy graphics and particle effects similar to Warframe, but they've also got the Apex Destruction physics, which is the latest technology that lets them develop maps that are fully destructible. This lets players bust through walls or even throw other players through the floor with debris flying everywhere. Can't imagine that looking that great without the right graphics card that supports the new technology. Playing Hawken on 3+ monitors on ultra settings with PhysX on high and 3D? I think it's pretty safe to say that you're going to need to basically work at NVIDIA to get that on a decent frame rate, if you don't just plain hurt yourself trying it. Now, speaking of games that look good on multiple monitors, MechWarrior Online seems like you need an entire cockpit to get the full experience. I mean seriously, games like these go well with crazy monitor setups. But I've not seen too many people having fun playing games like this or the next ones on a computer that really can't handle them on high graphics. MechWarrior Online needs the experience in my opinion. Multiple monitors, surround sound, and an epic joystick controller with IR motion control. Yes. Which brings me to WarThunder and World of Warplanes. Now I was not about to try and decide which was more demanding. If I had to take a guess, it'd probably be World of Warplanes based on the file size. One's a gig bigger than the other, but they're close when it comes to PC demand. All I can say is that with 3 monitors and joystick, either game looks pretty freaking cool on high settings. Oh, and on a side note, WarThunder just snagged support for Oculus Rift. Now we're talking. Well guys, all in all, if you've got a beast of a computer with some of the latest hardware, you can really make these games look fantastic and run flawlessly. These games aren't games that players with standard computers can't play, they're just a handful of games that can look really nice and perform really well if you get the means to do so. And there are plenty more free-to-play games out there that fit this category, so feel free to share them in the comments below. Tell us what games can look and run really good. Plus, if you got some sweet hardware, feel free to share your PC specs in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Check the description below to learn more about these games. Until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.